Too far up. Okay. Hi, this is Carl. I'm Yogo Denso on the forum on the Discord. I'm joined by Jeremy, who goes by HuntSecker27. We are gonna do
Hello.
we are gonna do a super late to the party pack review. We're gonna be talking about Rokugan at War, the first pack of the current cycle, or I guess the cycle that just finished since pack six just dropped. Um, So yeah, I think we'll just dive right on into it.
Good.
I guess starting at the top, we've got Our Foe Does Not Wait. It's a crab card, Earthlocked reaction after you pass on declaring a conflict. Choose an unbroken, non-stronghold province you control. Search the top 8 cards of your dynasty deck for a card and put that card into the province. Face up, shuffle, max 1 per conflict. So I guess the intent of this was to find a holding to make your province better.
Hmm. Yeah.
I don't know. Like it, I've never
Like,
seen this card played, so I don't know what it's supposed to do.
yeah. I mean, when I saw this card, I was definitely like, oh, this will get played. Like, I don't know what for exactly, but it will do something. And then I've literally never seen it. Like 8 cards, pretty decent to go search through.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's Earth Roll only, so kind of a restriction, but and you have to pass on declaring a conflict, which yeah, I thought all of those things, those are a few hoops, but even then, I thought being able to just search for
Is
a card, like it's not even a holding, it's not even anything, it's just a card. I
I
I, I was sure it was going to get played.
I know the new Alton Sarnai does that for Unicorn.
Yeah,
Um, is that a card that could have seen play in Unicorn?
yeah, and I mean the influence
Since you
cost
have
isn't even that bad. Like
yes,
it's one influence, no cost to play it event wise. Like it doesn't have a fate cost associated with it. So like yeah, like I was thinking, yeah, I might splash crab for this. And there's
yeah,
definitely been unicorn decks that have been splashing crab.
mm-hmm.
But even then, I don't think they're playing this.
Yeah. I think it's fair to say at the start, especially now that the entire cycle's come out, a lot of these cards are pretty bad in the context of the cycle.
Yeah.
There were a lot of cards that were really interesting, at least I thought, that have just lived in the binder because of how the cycle wound up developing. Um,
Yeah, like your eminent provinces, like I would say maybe 70% of them don't see play. Um,
yeah,
it's just a lot of stuff that just never hits the table, which is unfortunate for sure.
so I think the ones that'll see play or that are seeing play at least a little bit are the Scorpion one,
Hmm.
the Crane one, and occasionally the Crab one. I think.
Yeah, I mean, City of the Rich. I loved City of the Rich Frog when
Oh
it
yeah,
first dropped. Like, man, it was so like the beginning of the cycle was so much fun, unicorn wise. Like, I
mm-hmm.
had
I
a
remember
swarm deck going, and like, yeah, it was a lot of fun. And
you
then,
you milled yourself by turn two.
yeah, I mean, between that and Season of War, like, it was fast games for sure.
Yeah, well, we'll get to how those cards have accelerated, or at least accelerated the game in a little bit. Um, Recall Defenses is the next one. It's got the new rally keyword. So when it flips face up, you just put another card on top of it face up. And its action is move a card from your provinces to your stronghold province. I really like this card. It also costs 1 fate.
Hmm.
Um, but it basically can never see play because of the previously mentioned Season of War.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot of broken cards this cycle. Like, if this thing costs 0, obviously, I think you would see it. It would, as a rally card that costs 0, it would see
Oh,
play. But with
absolutely.
one fate, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, because Season 4 exists, anything you build with recalled defenses um, is just going to go away anyway. It just.
Oh yeah, that's true because it'll just pull it even off the stronghold.
Yeah, no, it's basically a blank card. Like, if Season 4 didn't exist, you could do a lot of fun stuff with, like, Haruma Outpost or any of the Caillou Walls.
We're
Like,
going to be saying that a lot this cycle. If this card didn't exist,
says,
this would be
yes,
great.
yes, yeah. Next one is a grab province, 6 province strength, Shrug Off Despair. It cannot be a stronghold province, and it's basically a talisman of the sun to that province.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's a void roll province, which means it's never going to see play. I think I'm getting some echo from you.
Oh, sorry, hold on. Is that any better?
I don't know, I have to talk. No, still getting it.
Alright, let me see if I can tinker.
Some minor technical difficulties. We'll be back in a moment.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how I would get rid of the echo.
Okay, it's gone now. I guess it might have been speaker microphone placement.
Could be. Yeah, I'll move it a little bit. There we go.
Okay, so yeah, this province, it doesn't do anything.
Yeah, and it's a shame too because I mean, obviously a talisman-like effect is a great thing. It just has to be something that can be on something that would see play.
Yeah, and like it, this is also I think where province design is at odds with how the game is played. Because high province strength provinces that don't do anything just end up being farmed, and that's detrimental. Um, so if you just want to throw a conflict, maybe get a ring effect, but primarily battle out your opponent's characters, you just go there and it doesn't matter.
Right.
Um, Plus, it's also competing for the probably the best element.
Yeah, any void element province has to be amazing. It has to go up against so much more to make it into a deck. And this just doesn't. This
Yeah,
just
no.
doesn't cut it.
Like looking at this, you know, it's not better than Pilgrimage because Pilgrimage will do something, and it's not better than Shameful, and it's just I think that Shrug Off Despair is basically binder fodder forever.
Yeah.
Uh, Going into Crane, we have the new Kakita Yoshi. 5 cost, 2/6, 3 glory. He's a courtier, a daimyo, and imperial, so he still has the same traits he did in his first version. And this one is after he wins a political conflict as the attacker, choose up to X characters, where X is the number of face up provinces you control, and dishonor each of those characters. I like this character. I primarily play Scorpion, so dishonor is always a thing I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think he sees a whole lot of play. I think Crane is still very much on the uh, conquest control
Mm-hmm.
playstyle and less on the dishonor. Although I have seen a couple of dishonor decks being played, splashing Scorpion for Miyako and Backhanded Compliment, I think.
I mean, really, this cycle, like 5 drops have to do something incredible to make it, just because the game is sped up so much between rally
Yep.
that if it doesn't completely change your opponent's battle plan by it being there, it's just not going to see play. And
Yeah.
like having it be like face up to do this thing, I understand the Crane theme is, hey, when these things are face up, this is supposed to happen this cycle, but
Yeah.
I don't see it.
One thing we have seen develop is since Crane can turn their provinces face up fairly easily now, um, there's been a development of putting Magistrate Station on the box.
Hmm.
Um, because with a card that came out in Pack 6, the Doji Diplomat, you can make your opponent flip up provinces.
Oh yeah, you pick one and they pick one, right?
Yeah, and eventually, like if all your provinces in a row are already face up, they have to pick your stronghold province, and that's where Magistrate Station is, and then you just have too much to overcome. Um, so it's possible that he can dishonor 5 characters in a turn, but that doesn't do anything because you don't need to dishonor 5 characters in a turn Because once you've done that once, they're not going to buy 5 characters next turn for you to do it again.
Sometimes I have trouble looking at the cards side of the unicorn lens, and like looking at this thing, I'm like, oh, it doesn't say participating. That's pretty good. But I have to remember that most clans don't have to work.
Yes.
It's not telling me like, oh, you have to have more. They have to be participating.
Yeah.
So like making sure that I actually value it accordingly.
Yeah.
And being like, yeah, it's still not in Crane, still not. No.
Yeah. No, I like the card, but that's because I played Dishonor. I don't think outside of niche Dishonor decks he's ever going to see any kind of play. What was that?
I said I was going to give it up for the art though.
Oh yeah, the art's great. He looks like he's having a really bad day.
The worst day.
He hasn't slept in a week and he's showing it. Next one is Captivating Story. It's a waterlocked card. Crane event, 1 influence. During a conflict, choose a character that is participating alone on your side. It gets +1 Paul until the end of the conflict for each face-up province you control. You may remove 1 fate from that character. If you do, honor it.
I mean, this action is a story in and of itself. There's so much on this.
I know it certainly does a thing. I guess the short and sweet version, if he's by himself, it's a political bonsai for each face-up province you control.
Sure.
And if you pull a fate off of it, you can honor it.
That's like a lot of hoops.
It's a lot of. Yeah, I think if it wasn't waterlocked, this would probably see a lot more play.
Yeah.
Currently, I think it's seeing 0 play, because out of Crane, if you look at Kakita Yoshi, since he's the only other Crane character that's up here, if you played that card on him and all your provinces were face up, and remove the fate from him, that's a lot of ifs, he would get +8 political skill for that conflict.
Right.
That seems like a huge thing. I just think the roll lock is killing it.
Yeah, for sure.
I will be curious if this card gets a second look once the next cycle starts and we start seeing some dire characters, since that is a way to remove fate off of a character in the middle of a turn.
Yeah, a lot of stuff is going to be, I think, next cycle, like, even I Am Ready. Like, Unicorn Chat has been talking about I Am Ready, like, turning on dire.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Anything that's going to remove a fate is going to have a second look next cycle with dire stuff. Just the surprise factor. And then if you get something on top of that, like Ready or Political on this, like, yeah, this card will get a second look next cycle.
I just think it'll get looked at through a layer of dust and then be left alone. We have a Crane Holding. I guess they got 2 this cycle. Pledge of Loyalty. When an honored character you control would leave play, discard his honored status token instead. It is.
Oh, that's a province, bud.
Is that not what I said? I said holding, didn't I? No, but it is a province. I've been playing this game for like 2.5 years now, and I still fuck that up.
I do too.
Yes, it's a 3 province strength province. That is Earthroll. This is Stand Your Ground from Lion on a province. Yeah. I guess if you can turn all your provinces face up, it gets good.
Yeah, it's just if you can turn it up in the middle of at a place, because you have to defend to make this thing do anything. So if your opponent flips this up, it's not going to do anything for you unless you defend it.
Yeah.
So it's like you have to flip it up at a place they're not at. It's just the whole Crane thing of revealing provinces. It's like the surprise of provinces is so much in the strategy of this game that giving away that information, it just, I don't know.
Yeah, so like clearly the plan for Pledge of Loyalty is you run the Crane Eminent Province that's in a later pack where people come in to play Honored, and you run it with Magistrate Station, so you have someone who's honored, they can straighten, and the honor token acts as a mini reprieve.
Yeah.
Um, the problem is if you don't flip up any of those, or you don't see all of them like at the right time, this is blank, and it's super squishy.
Yeah, it's just too condition. I think it's too conditional.
Yeah, I think, and God, I hope this doesn't happen, but if Crane had a more reliable way to flip up their own provinces, like maybe something out of the conflict
Hmm.
deck, um, this might see more play.
Yeah.
Uh, Next up is a card that will never see play. Educated Hyman. I
Yeah.
think.
This was previewed, and even
Yeah,
then we were like, I don't know about this.
yeah. I think this card got a super tepid response. It is an attachment that attaches to an unbroken province. Each time you refill the attached province with a card, instead look at the top 2 cards of your dynasty deck. Top 4 if it's if the attached province is face down. Refill that province with one of those cards and discard the rest. So I can see how dynasty filtering could be good.
Hmm.
Stuff like Shrewd Yasuki and Allied by Artists do conflict filtering. Um, but like this card, in order for it to see play, needs to be in Lion.
Yeah, and this kind of sets the stage for what Dragon is getting for the entire cycle, right? Where it's just like
Hot trash.
weird, conditional. Like it's just not there.
Yeah. Like Dragon has nothing that interacts with its Dynasty discard pile. So yeah, this will you trade a conflict card for more Dynasty control, but Dragon doesn't hasn't gotten really good Dynasty characters this cycle either. So it's not like they have it. This card is trash. I'm I'm ready to move on.
So, just random question though.
Yeah,
With this card, why not make this a holding with some province strength? Why make this each time you would Do you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
even something, just something to give some kind of extra province strength. There's like I don't. I mean, I know this cycle has attachments to
yeah.
provinces.
They introduced battlefields that attach to provinces. That there's one in this cycle. There's 2 in this pack, um, and we're seeing a lot more exploration of province attachments. Um, but really, I don't know. Like even its dynasty filtering effect is just not worth it for a conflict card.
Right.
Um, it I don't even like. I like to try and figure out what the plan was for this card, and I can't even come up with like a hypothetical for this one.
No, I mean, you and I would rack our brains sometimes in the shop, like just being like, why though?
Yeah,
Why? Like, so just
why
trying
you
to
do
figure it
this?
out. Just
It's
trying. You're
just
coming up with like nothing, or like really fringe cases of being, like just going jank brain and being like, well, I guess it could do this.
okay.
Why would
So
why would you want it to?
for this card to see play, Dragon would need some kind of recursion from its dynasty discard pile, which thematically you could do because their
Reincarnation.
their monks reincarnate.
Yeah.
So at that point, if you're just looking at 2 cards, it can kind of be like, okay, I want to buy this card and get this card for free.
Hmm.
Maybe then, but like Lion does that already with
Yeah.
uh, their spirit callers, since they have 2 now, and um, Forebear's Echoes.
Right.
But the problem is, Lion isn't going to give up 3 influence costs to be able to do that.
Yeah. Can't make it playable in any other clan.
Yeah,
Gotta keep it dragon.
I mean, if I guess they're theme is now we get the unplayable trash from other clans.
Yeah. We've spent enough time on
Yeah,
that.
I was gonna say the next example of unplayable trash is the Serene Isizumi. It's a 3-cost conflict character. It's a 2/2, 1 glory. It has sincerity, but you can play this card as an attachment on a character you control, reducing its cost by 2. So you can pay 1 fate to give a character move the attached character home during a conflict.
Can you
Uh,
imagine if this thing was purple?
it also loses sincerity.
Yeah.
Um, I can see this being purple, like the move home effect.
Yeah.
I can actually see Unicorn getting some value out of because you can attack political like Yasumura and then send him home.
Right.
Um, but at the same time, Unicorn already has a card that does that,
Yeah.
and
But
it's
the fact
doesn't
that it's
seem
on a body, yeah,
yeah,
maybe.
but like it's just this card is also hot trash. Like
Also that.
like there's I I guess the idea was, well, I'll defend with someone, make my opponent spend cards, and then go home.
Hmm. And it won't cost me a card, really, if I play it as a character, because when it leaves play, I'll draw a card. So it's not affecting tempo, maybe. But
Yeah,
it's just not.
but it loses sincerity when it becomes an attachment.
Well, I'm saying either or, right? Like,
Oh,
if
sure.
I don't and I play it as a character, I'm not losing tempo technically. I'm losing fate, obviously.
Yeah.
But, I'll get I'll get a card again once this thing leaves. But yeah,
It.
it's bad.
Yeah. Moving on, because there's nothing to say about that. Cycle of Rebirth. This is a 0-cost dynasty event. Choose a card in the province, shuffle this card and that card into their owner's decks. Refill each province emptied by this effect face up. I actually like this card.
Hmm.
This is probably one of the more playable cards Dragon got this cycle. Um, it it's kind of sort of rally.
Yeah, when I recalled this card, I remember it having rally, but looking at it now, like,
It does
oh, it
not.
actually doesn't.
No,
Yeah.
because its effect is kind of like a rally. Um, but you also can hit your opponent's provinces with it, which means you can make a potential problem go away.
Hmm.
But that's
I
really
mean, the strength of holdings this entire cycle goes down because there's so much cycling. Like, it's not insurmountable, obviously. People still run really good holdings, but
yeah.
it's just it just makes it so much harder when it gets saturated with stuff that's cycling through and making stuff leave, and yeah.
Yep. Um, I mean, I like this card. It doesn't see play a lot,
Yeah.
um, especially since you can't do multiple in a round. Um,
Oh yeah, if you flip multiple of these, it's just like, all right, well, that's a dead card.
well, if you flip multiple of them, you use one of them to get rid of both of them.
That's true. Yeah.
And doesn't that just feel terrible? Because at that point you should have just not run those two, and you wouldn't have seen them to begin with.
Yeah, just run good cards instead.
Yeah. Then we have a Sharing Shinsei's Wisdom. It is a 4-strength province. I said it right that time. Water roll. After this province is revealed, choose a character, move 1 fate from that character to another character controlled by the same player. So this is kind of Feast or Famine ish.
Hmm.
I guess it's supposed to help kill towers or keep stuff alive.
It's kind of the same thing as before. I think this will get a second look with the next cycle in
Yeah.
terms of, they attack your province and you turn off Dire by moving a fate
Yep.
from one of their guys, or yeah,
Or
I think it'll get a second look for sure.
or you can turn on Dire from one of your characters. I guess it also
Exactly. Without
protects.
actually losing the fate.
Yeah, it protects against the Water Ring.
Hmm.
If you've got a random spud with a fate and your tower doesn't have fate, you can be like, haha, no Water Ring for you. Um,
And even spending for like Maho effects, right? Like moving it to a character that they weren't expecting
so
to have it, and then triggering the ability.
for the Maho effects, we're gonna have to wait for the rules to come out for it.
Hmm.
because there's nothing saying that all the fate has to come off one character,
Ooh, true.
or that it has to come off the character that's getting the effect.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So you can dump a whole bunch of fate on a random character and then just use that as basically your blood bank for Maho.
Blood bank. Yeah.
So that's going to have to wait for an official. Hey, here's how this thing actually works.
I mean, it's water province. I'm trying to remember what Dragon has for water provinces that you would want to replace with this.
I mean, water provinces are historically the worst.
Yeah.
I know it sounds absolutely terrible, but they've usually been like the worst element. So I don't know that Dragon's really running anything
Specific.
specific for it. I know their air and fire provinces tend to be locked up by restoration, and I think they've been running Pursuit of Justice
Huh.
actually, which is something that comes out later this cycle. So yeah, maybe with Dire, this gets another look. It's just stupid that it's a one-time effect.
Yeah.
I kind of would have liked it. No, actually, if it would have been on attack declaration, it would have been broken.
Maybe an action ability.
That's yeah. If you narrow it to characters that are participating,
Drop it a strength. Make it three province strength, and then
okay. Well, because if you make it an action or an attack declaration, every character they buy with a fate just makes their tower live that much longer.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, maybe
So
not.
so I think this effect is forever limited by the fact that it would be too good if you could do it when you wanted. So it's got to be random.
I mean, they can flip up and flip down. Like Dragon specifically can flip stuff back down. Like we don't see it a lot, but it definitely exists.
Yeah, but then do you go back there?
Yeah, your opponent does.
Um,
Yeah,
it Dragon got screwed this cycle.
very much so. Yeah.
And this is kind of endemic of that. Moving out to like the big winner of the cycle, we come to Lion. First card on here is Prepare to Ambush. It's a battlefield, which matters for a bunch of their cards. Attached to an unbroken province, limit one battlefield attachment per province. During conflicts at the attached province, you may play each character in your provinces as if it were in your hand. Each character played this way must enter play in the conflict. So you remember how good Hidden Moon Dojo was?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, let's let someone run three of them that they can play when they want. It's not that bad, um, but it is still a really strong effect. Um, Oddly enough, though, I think most Lion players have moved off of this.
Yeah, like uh, Lion got so much this cycle that it's so good
Yeah,
that they can just choose to not have to think about this, right?
yeah.
Like as a unicorn player, let me tell you,
Oh, you'd shit yourself
seeing
for this card.
seeing lion cards the past couple cycles, I'm like, man, that would be really nice, and it
Mm-hmm.
would fit our theme just fine.
Yep.
Uh, it's two influence cost, so it's not insurmountable to splash, but it's just like, yeah,
Yeah, but I don't know, like, what else you could get out of Lion that. Because Unicorn is basically locked into
HMT.
Cavalry,
Oh,
HMT, High Roll or Die.
yep, roll the
Uh,
dice.
yep. So I don't know that Lion gives enough to a high roll that you could take it for this card.
Yeah,
But no, this is a good card. I've seen it used to like hard pass in Dynasty and just basically defend first turn and then start buying big bodies later on. Um, it's certainly used for like that final push on strongholds. But it's been replaced by other more
better
meaningful cards.
battlefields.
Yeah, which is horrifying. Um, their next card is basically the opposite, a Kodo Reserve Company. It's a 4 cost 5/1 2 glory army, Bushi. No attachments except weapon. It does have rally. And during a conflict, if there's a battlefield in play, choose a participating character you control. Move this character to the conflict. If you do, move the chosen character home. So he trades places if there's a battlefield in play. I think the only reason he saw play early in the cycle was because he had Rally.
Yeah, I'm gonna knock FFG here for not explaining Rally on this card. Like they're templating
So
compared to every other Rally. Like I stared at this card a lot and then looked at it and I was like, oh, this has Rally.
yes, that
Um,
they definitely buried the lead on this one. I can see why they didn't explain Rally on the card because they didn't have room on it.
yeah, it's getting kind of full.
But they could have put Rally on its own line. There's room for another line of text on that card that just says Rally, so it doesn't get buried. Um, and from a visual templating kind of thing, it being so close to so many bolded words means you don't see it.
Right.
Um, but its ability doesn't really do anything. Because why wouldn't you just attack with him?
Right.
And if you're attacking with a Spud, and he's on the table, your opponent knows he can swap out, so he can still defend kind of appropriately.
I mean, sometimes in the midst of a conflict, there are so many different cards being flung around, so many different actions and stuff. Like, I mean, I as a unicorn player with movement stuff, like there are definitely times my opponent has just getting tied up in everything that's going on and has completely forgotten about movement stuff. But
That's true.
I don't think Lion. I don't know. I don't think really Lion has. They're so straightforward. I don't really think it's something you really have to worry about. I mean, I'll say this card is notable for having 5 mil at 4
Yeah,
cost.
it's a big number.
Yeah.
But Lion's very much currently focused on running as many commanders as they can. Oh, pardon me. Because those cards are just really fucking good.
And same thing, like Lion has gotten better cards this cycle that they don't even need to think
Yeah.
about it.
Yep. A bad card that Lion got is Ninkatoshi. It's their Eminent Province. It's 4 province strength. It is Earth and Water. Starts in play face up. Can't turn it down. Can't be Stronghold Province. That's the standard Eminent templating. And each other province gets -1 strength if controlled by an opponent, and +1 strength if controlled by you or your teammate.
Eminent started out so promising looking at it, and I understand what they were going for, but it really was kind of the wet fart of the cycle, right? In terms of just like it doesn't. So many of these do not do what you would expect them, or the intent. Like no one would ever run this. There's no +1 is nothing for the. I mean, you have to protect it, right? So that it continues to have the effect, and it's imminent, which means it's the first thing your opponent sees, unless you're running another imminent. So why not attack this first? There's literally no danger in doing so. It doesn't hurt you to do it. Yeah, it's just an immediate giant target. And
so
if it had effects that made it so that like, hey, it is imminent and also it's kind of dangerous to attack, then that would have been something. But as a whole, like, there's just nothing like it for imminent stuff like that.
I also think 2 big knocks against it, not that it needed more because everything you said is correct, is that it's Earth and Water roll,
right?
Or Earth and Water element. So Lion's not going to give up Art of War for this, and I don't think they're going to give up Upholding Authority for this either.
Right, like 2 good provinces to run,
and because
a giant target.
Yeah, and because of how the Seeker roll works, this isn't going to be the second province for Seeker because then you lose out on the money.
Right.
If this had different elements, maybe.
Even then,
it's I mean, I guess it's. I don't know what it's supposed to do. Like help with Swarm, maybe, but then you still have to win.
Yeah, you have to constantly protect it.
It doesn't help you win the conflict. It just makes it easier to break, and that's really not enough. Moving on to Field of Ruin. Neutral card, battlefield attachment, costs 1 fate. You can reduce the cost to play this card by 1 if it's played on a broken province. So this is the only battlefield that's come out so far that can go on a broken province. It's got the limit 1 battlefield per province. Reaction after a conflict phase begins, discard each card in the attached province. Um, did you ever want to build a Dynasty Mill deck?
No.
Moving on. Because that's really all this does.
I mean, really digging deep, it is another battlefield, I guess, but that's not something most clans care about.
Yeah, it isn't. Like, unless you want to build a Dynasty Mill deck,
right?
Which you can do.
I mean, did you see that Scorpion game?
Yeah.
In Clan War, yeah, like maybe in that.
Yeah, I mean, I have built a Dynasty Mill deck out of Phoenix with that. It works. It's stupid. Moving on, Season of War.
Hey, a good card.
A good card. This is, I think, the first card they previewed for the entire cycle.
That first preview, man, it was like Rich Frog and this. And
yes.
It's like, wow, what is this cycle going to be?
Yes.
And even with the wild expectations I had for what the cycle was going to be, it was even more powerful than that, it turns out.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, 1 fate neutral dynasty event. It's got Rally. Its action, discard each card in each province, refilling each province face up. End the dynasty phase, then there's an additional dynasty phase during which players do not collect fate. So basically, this is used to flush out bad flops for you, good flops for your opponent. It can hose some of the later dynasty events that came out. Like the line when it says Honor Ibushi, you bought this dynasty phase.
Yeah.
Technically, you didn't buy that dynasty phase.
That's true, yeah, it's a different dynasty.
It's a different dynasty phase. This card, like, basically lit everyone's brain on fire.
Yeah, it immediately made it so people were second guessing running holdings.
Yep.
Because really, what were you going to be able to keep on the table if your opponent flipped this? I did like in the games we played with it, where you really had to think about like your action windows.
Yes.
Can I pull this off before my opponent does this? Do I want to do this and see if I can get more cards that are more playable? Like, there's good strategy behind this. This is just setting the stage for what neutral rally events are going to be in this cycle.
Yes.
Generally.
And then we saw some degenerate shit that they immediately banned. But
yep.
This like playing it at the wrong time could be bad, because if your opponent was just gonna pass, then you could realistically give them 2 fate if they pass first, and then you play this and they pass again. This card opened up a lot of things. What I'm most sad about is that it basically killed the Crab Wall deck.
Absolutely.
Because
an entire theme just out the window.
Yeah. It would be nice if this specified characters. Like, you pitch each character card or something. But
yeah, but then you flop up and it's just more holdings, and you're like, oh no.
I mean, that's true too. This card, like, what it turned into and what it's gone back to is everyone is running this card because it is a rally card. So there's no cost to run it. And occasionally it can, save your butt.
I will say that the most fun I was having with this game since I started playing it when it first came out was probably this pack site, this first pack for Unicorn, and running that Swarm deck.
Well, because you got to see all your toys.
Oh my gosh! Like having turns. I had a turn the first day this thing came out where I put out, I want to say 18 characters.
Yeah.
With the cost reduction neutral.
Those who served before it got errata.
Yeah, those who served before errata, and then just Season of War doing it again.
Yep.
Or just seeing what I could. And then, as we got further and further in the cycle, and I'm like, oh man, a yurt, and my opponent's like, you're not gonna get to play that. Season of War. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh no,
Oh, why would you do this to me?
I can't believe you've done this.
Yeah, no, it's a card we're going to see basically forever until this cycle
Oh
rotates
yeah,
out.
it's not going anywhere.
Yeah. City of the Rich Frog was another one that lit people on fire. 3 province, strike province. It's eminent. After setup, fill this province with 3 cards. When you would refill this province, refill it to 3 cards instead of 1.
Oh man. Just a thing to note about this card: if you could get a yurt to stick, and it was the last card that you played out of those 3, it refilled 3
Yep,
immediately.
yep,
So that's how I was able to do that degenerate stuff with City of the Rich Frog, where I would find a yurt, then play everything else on it, yurt, get 3. I mean, I had games where I did it 3 times, and each time I was pulling a yurt and just did it over and over,
yep.
over and over and over and over again.
S-
Um, so
Sometimes
fun.
the card draw gods favor people.
Yeah, I mean, and then rally on top of it.
Yeah,
Like, all right, cool.
it's so it speaks a lot to how lacking dynasty efficiency was
Yeah.
that this card got played, because it basically gives you 3 extra provinces that you can do each turn.
I'm trying to think of any other clan that really cared. I mean, maybe Dragon to find their maybe early on with Dragon, so they could find Mitsu or something like that. But
Yeah,
really,
I mean, so everyone was running it because it was like, especially in the first pack, there
yeah, yeah,
wasn't everyone didn't have access to rally cards, so this lets you, um, I guess, simulate that, if you will.
yeah, that's fair.
Um, but even though it is an Earth and a Void province, people were still running it, which should be an indication of how important players are valuing dynasty consistency.
Yeah, and it's the same thing. It gave info away because you're like, well, they probably didn't give up their void province for this, so I probably don't have to worry about UA.
Yeah,
Um, and just obviously it was the first thing you attacked because it's not like
I mean,
you were worried about it.
yeah,
But if you could successfully, if in my games, if I could get to turn 2 and that thing was still around, I probably won.
yeah, or would lose 5 honor at the end of that turn.
Yeah, either way.
Um, but yeah, no, I think this card probably doesn't see a whole lot more play now that the entire cycle's out and everyone has
Yeah.
access to all their rally cards, because now you can get that level of consistency and efficiency without having to worry about a face-up eminent province.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, on the Phoenix side of things, we have Garanto Guardian. It is a 4-cost Bushi, 4/3/3 glory, keeper roll only. After this character wins a conflict as a defender, resolve a ring effect that matches the attack province's element as if you were the attacking player. So
We had we had a local who was very happy to see this card.
yes, he's a big fat Bushi.
He always wanted to make a Bushi Phoenix deck, and this definitely helped get him there.
Yep, I think this was supposed to go into Phoenix's pacifist deck.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just don't think it ever. That deck didn't go that route.
Right. It went other ways.
Yeah,
I
like
mean, looking at it on its face, you're like, all right, this isn't bad.
yeah,
But it just never. It's got the Bushi keyword. It doesn't have anything
yeah. It
that a
doesn't.
Phoenix would care about.
Yeah, it doesn't have Courtier. It doesn't have Scholar. It doesn't have Shugenja. And I think if it had had any one of those keywords instead of Bushi, it would have seen a lot more play.
Yeah, agreed.
Because this could be a great body for Tadaka to drop in on.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, so this card, there's not a lot of play for it. I don't think there's any point in wasting more time on it.
Agreed.
Wandering Mediator. This is a card that actually did see play. I think still might. It's a 1-cost courtier, 0 military, 2 political, 1 glory. Air roll only, and during a conflict at an air province, select one, either move this character to the conflict or move it home. It's also a conflict character,
Yeah,
which is the big thing.
that
It's
is the big thing for
it's
sure.
its text might as well be blank. But if you are a clan that needs a conflict courtier, this is the cheapest one you're going to find. I think all the others cost two.
Yeah, and yeah, it's kind of surprising this thing has courtier on it at all. I mean, I understand why you have to add air roll only afterwards,
Yes.
just to have a one drop courtier, but yeah,
Yeah. Its ability will basically never get used.
yeah,
Yeah.
stat line, yeah,
Statlands, it's fine political. It's basically if you need a conflict courtier, this is where you go.
yeah, and the influence cost is one, which
Yeah,
is like wild, 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 wild.
yeah. Uh, Here's another hot trash eminent province, which is a theme. Kakudaira, 5 province strength. It is air and void. After each phase begins, reveal each face down card in this province.
I remember this card being previewed, and Phoenix were like, "Oh, maybe this is going to be a theme," and but no one could ever figure out what
Yeah.
what this thing was actually doing. Like, why does it do this? Why? I don't understand.
I got nothing. Like,
Yeah,
it's like the only thing I can legitimately come up with is, well, if charge was still a thing.
yeah, I guess, or maybe hold had more holdings out of nowhere. I don't. Yeah.
If you could fire off dynasty events outside the dynasty phase, this could do a thing.
Well, it's got 5 province strength too. It's like the devs are saying like, well, you'll want this. We got to make it high province strength because we don't want it to break, so it sticks around. But what
Yeah.
is it even? What is it even doing?
I don't know. Maybe there's something in the next cycle.
I mean, yeah, that happens. We get stuff nested in that doesn't make sense, and then like 2 cycles later, you're like, oh,
Oh, this now makes sense. But I don't know. Like basically, you need some kind of charge effect or some kind of blowout holding for this to do anything.
I mean, when this cycle was made, it was still under the assumption that we were going to have
The
cards cycle out
After this cycle, yes.
after this cycle. So maybe there was something there, but I don't
I don't
know.
know. It's a hot trash province. If you ever see this across from you, you should rejoice in the fact that you probably have an easy win coming up. Um, Here's a card that has gotten significantly better, and it was already pretty good to start with. Governor's Spy. It's a Scorpion
Whoa.
card. 3 fate cost, 1 military, 4 political, 1 glory. It's a courtier, and its action is during a conflict in which this character is participating, choose a player, turn each card in that player's provinces face down, then look at them and put each of those cards into one of that player's provinces such that each province ends up with at least 1 card. So, when this card came out, the idea was, or the supposition was, hey, I can use this to one, discard a card when I'm breaking that I want to go away, and two, I can lock out your dynasty buys. Because if you have a bad flop and he's on the table, you're going to have a bad flop for the rest of the game.
Right.
Um, and both of those are still valid, but he primarily gets played now because they put out a card in Pack 6 called, oh no, Pack 5. 5? Yeah, 5. Called Stoke Insurrection, which lets you play people out of your opponent's dynasty. Or, yeah, out of their dynasty row.
Weird. A scorpion card that completely circumvents what any other clan can do and kind of the rules of the game. Weird.
I mean, there are other clans that I'm going to be the Scorpion apologist right now. It it does things like cavalry reserves. It's pulling players into play from just an area of the game that was previously unexplored.
Sure.
Um,
But it's like every province. It's like, why not one or two? All provinces,
all the
right?
provinces, yes. I know we're going on a Stoke insurrection tangent here, and that's kind of warranted because
We
it is
can't avoid it. I
it is
mean,
it is a bullshit card. Like there's no denying it. And I really do think that that card needed some kind of extra clause on there. When I was talking to Yama yesterday, we got on a Stoke insurrection tangent, and he said it should have had like the echoes text on it, where the characters
yeah,
leave play after a conflict.
for sure.
I was saying it shouldn't be able to hit unique characters.
Either one of those would have been very valid.
Yes, um, but basically, Stoke is a bullshit card. But don't worry, it's probably going to get on the restricted list in January.
As much as this game loves to make cards about the theming of whatever it is, it would make sense for either of those things to be true.
Yeah,
Either not uniques, or they leave at the end of the turn. You have Stoked Insurrection. He
yeah.
died.
And then everyone feels bad and they go commit seppuku.
Yeah, or you can't use a unique because a unique character would never betray the clan. You know, like all of those things would be like thematic things that would be fine.
Yep.
But like just doesn't affect
No.
doesn't affect Scorp sometimes.
No. No, it doesn't. But Scorpion also gets bad cards, like Paralyzing Delicacy.
True. I'm not done talking about Governor Spy. Who said I was done? Stat line's good too.
Statline's good too, because like if it wasn't for Stoke Insurrection, I think this card would still see play, and it's perfectly fine. I think the interaction with Stoke Insurrection is a problem.
Yeah, I would have anticipated a worse stat line for such a powerful effect like this. Like all you
Yeah,
have to do is be participating. Like that's it. This one guy has to be participating, and then it just completely messes with everything.
I don't think FFG
Not
has quite wrapped its head around the cost and value of synergistic cards.
Yeah, they're still trying to figure that out. But even make this thing be political only, right? It can be any conflict.
Yeah,
It can be your conflicts. It can be their conflicts. It can be military. It can be political. It's like
I've seen more than one game where this character defends against a unicorn conflict, uh, turns everything face down, and then Stoke Insurrection gets played, and the Scorpion player pulls a Chagatai, and then they use Calling in Favors to steal a Curved Blade onto Chagatai,
sure, why not?
and then they stand Chagatai with Kyuden Bayushi, and then they profit.
It's yeah, it is what it is. I mean, this.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
again, it like Governor Spy is a fine card. Stoke Insurrection makes it a good card. Um, I think this probably needed fewer stats if they were going to enable such a bullshit synergy.
Right.
I
And
think
it's not like they didn't know. It's in the same cycle.
yeah,
It's not like, oh, we didn't anticipate this.
it's like
Like,
no,
obviously you anticipated this.
you knew what you were doing with this.
Right.
It's all
Oh,
very.
also, it's a courtier, because why not? Why not? Why not give it a relevant keyword?
I mean, yeah, it would actually be worse if he was a shinobi.
Yeah.
Because if he was if he was a shinobi, then you can from the shadows him, so you don't even have to pay the 3 fate for the cost reduction on Stoke Insurrection. Yeah.
There's no way around the BS around this card. It just
Yeah, no, it is. It's terrible. I think this card should have had less stats and maybe a restriction on its action because of how it interacts with Stoke.
Right.
I don't think that would make Stoke any less hateful. I think it would just make it a little less feels bad at how easy Scorpion can get the cost reduction on it.
Right. And I think Scorpion did not do that well cycle wise in terms of what you guys got. So like
no, like the 3 cards that really matter, or there are 4 cards that matter out of this cycle, like in large impactful ways, and that's Governor, Spy, Silent One's Monastery, Stoke Insurrection, and the new Kachiko.
right. Like it's okay to have some bangers for like a clan. Like
Yeah,
But
it's
you
just
guys couldn't get everything up. Like you said, like our next card is
yeah,
not that
this
great. So
no. And all the cards we just mentioned will probably be discussed at in length in the future. Um, but yeah, Paralyzing Delicacy, 2 influence, 0 cost event. It's a poison. During a conflict, choose a participating character. I'm getting an echo from you again.
Echo again.
Yeah,
Weird. I wonder. I'm not really changing anything.
it might just be some compression issues from Discord.
Discord.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Okay. Yep. Choose a character. Choose a participating character. That character gets -1 military until the end of the conflict for each face-down card in its controller's provinces. So this card is Bonsai Debuff. Um, at the time, people were like, hey, this works really well with Governor's Spy. And it punishes people running like City of the Rich Frog because it could be a -6 military with that and Governor's Spy. But it's a fine card, which means it doesn't get played.
Yeah, it's fair, which means it's not going to see play.
Yeah. I know there have been many other people that have said that, there are good cards that are just not good enough. This isn't a good card, it's a fine card, which means in no world will it ever see any kind of like legitimate competitive play.
Yeah, I mean, unless there's something wild that happens with poison.
So we've got the
You got the Poison Master, but even then.
Yeah, so we can pay an honor to find this poison. Which, okay. It's fine, I guess. I think at some point a poison deck might need to be revisited because I think there's enough now that do things. But that's never going to be like a super good deck.
I mean, there have been plenty of times where we've had a sub theme that has just never really made it, and then a cycle will come out, and you'll have 1 to 2 cards that suddenly turn that sub theme on, like Commander.
I was gonna say, just like Commander.
Yeah, where like things had Commander, it didn't do anything really, and then like 1 or 2 cards, and you're like, oh, okay, this can now kind of work. So poison, any of that stuff could happen.
It could. I don't think it will, but
no, I don't think it will either.
Like, I'm fine getting the occasional poison card just because it is thematic, and I enjoy making bullshit decks. So for that, it's fine. But from a competitive standpoint, this is never going to be a thing. Finally, we're at the Unicorn Clan.
Hooray!
Your favorites.
Not any nothing I really want to discuss too in depth for this pack, but yay!
Yay! So we've got Countryside Trader. It's a 2 fate, 1 military, 2 political, 1 glory, courtier merchant. That's a conflict card. During a conflict in which this character is attacking, spend 1 fate and choose a triggered ability on the attacked province. Resolve that ability as if you controlled the province, ignoring all triggering conditions.
Now, this card set Unicorn Chat on fire in terms of just jank brains just going off, being like, what does this, well, can we use it with this? Can we use it with this? We can resolve this ability. Can you do that? And, for a while, people tested it. But at the end of the day, this thing's a courtier, and that it doesn't do anything.
Not only that, it's a courtier with a horse in the picture, which means it's not cavalry.
Absolutely, that's the rule.
But
yeah, the interactions were as such as like people were like, "What does this affect?" Right? Like, what does this work with? And a lot of times, looking at rulings and stuff like that, you're like, "Oh, it actually doesn't work with this."
So
it doesn't actually.
How do given that Contested Countryside wound up being a thing?
Yeah.
That, I mean, I guess the reason Contested Countryside was played was because it was free.
Yeah, that definitely helped.
Because the ability is basically the same, right?
Right.
It's just this one you have to pay 2 fate
Well, you're paying 3 because you have
plus
to
one
play it.
fate.
You have to pay it for 2,
Yep.
and you're paying a fate to use the abilities. You're paying 3 fate for stat lines that you generally don't care about in Unicorn,
And traits you don't give a shit about.
and traits that you don't care about, and then it will trigger some provinces.
Is there a is the list that it triggers versus contested countryside different?
I don't believe. I think the wording is almost identical. Let me see if I can look up contested. But I believe it's pretty much the same.
Okay, I know there are some things that don't work. Like upholding authority doesn't work for either of them.
Mm-hmm. Right, because of the wording.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the same.
Okay. Yeah, it's a neat card. Um, it's just a shame that they printed a better free version of it.
Actually, it's a little bit better because it says ignoring all triggering conditions.
Yes, I mean
where
you can't trigger like Midnight Revels in the middle of a conflict.
Yeah.
Or Restoration of Balance. You can be like, haha.
Yeah. So the difference is that contested countryside doesn't cost you 3 fate and
Yeah.
it has rally.
Yep. That's a shame.
It is indeed.
Then we have the White Horde Vanguard. It's a 4 fate, 5 military, 2 political, 1 glory Bushi cavalry army. No attachments except weapons. During the first conflict, each round, opponent's card effects cannot bow this character or move it.
So this kind of sets off the theme for Unicorn in the cycle, where it's like, why not also what Lion do? Which is, why doesn't this have rally?
Yeah.
Similar stat line, similar kind of useless effect.
Well, yeah, because I think it's in this cycle you get, or was it last cycle you got Never Yield?
Yeah.
Which does the exact same thing for everyone.
Yeah, for free.
Yeah. I mean, it costs you a card, but
Sure, but I mean, fate-wise, it's not. It's four cost character with a 5 cost stat line in mill, which is something you generally don't see in Unicorn. It's an army, so you don't have to worry about attachment stuff. And it's got relevant traits, Bushi and Cav. But
yep.
It's like I've never played this card. I've never seen a Unicorn play this card. It doesn't do anything.
Yeah, that's really all there is to say about it. Like, it really should have. I mean, I guess maybe it should have rally. I don't know that it having rally would help because the Kodo Reserve Company doesn't see play and it has rally.
Well, that's the thing. That's an unplayable card that Lion has that is still better than this. And like Lion and Unicorn themes, up until probably this cycle, I would say we kind of dabbled in each other's stuff. Like you would have Lion cards that had cavalry. You had Unicorn cards that had similar effects. And then I like this cycle was kind of the branching off point where you really saw it started going. The Lion pool of things that they could do really started to diversify this cycle and the last.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's more pulling characters out of their discard or a battlefield theme. Unicorn is a military themed clan, and we did not get any relevant battlefields. We did not get anything like that. That they kind of just stuck that with Lion.
Well, yeah, you just splash Lion, problem solved.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, well, I guess I'll splash Lion to do this thing that we should probably also at least have something like this. But that's the plight of the Unicorn, always and forever.
Yep.
Two more hoops for the same effect.
I mean,
it's generally how it goes.
I guess that's the price you pay for getting the better HMT.
We've been paying that price for a while. Like, we've been paying that price for so long.
And
that card's going to cycle eventually, and then it's really going to be bad. But
yeah,
at a certain point, Unicorn sees all of these different clans really deepening their pool of what they can do. I think this cycle we saw Unicorn get a lot of courtiers, but we don't have anything that we really care about that outside of the other Unicorn card in the pack.
Which is Scouted Terrain.
Scouted Terrain.
It's a 4-cost event, which means it's got to be good. Every 4-cost event has basically been a blowout event. It's void roll only. During the conflict phase, choose an opponent. If that opponent controls at least 4 face-up provinces, you may attack that player's stronghold this phase.
So when this pack came out, for the first, I want to say month, I'll be generous and say 6 weeks. Scattered terrain decks were everywhere. It drove everybody crazy that played against it. It was more politically focused, generally running out of Shiro Shinjo, which was a nice change of pace because we didn't have to play HMC.
I believe the splash for that deck was Scorpion.
Yeah, we liked. You had to have cancels to make sure that the thing went off. Otherwise, Unicorn having a 4-cost event, you have to protect it, which means you have to go Scorpion. You're already going Void, so that limits your options in terms of like element roll. But yeah, I mean, it was hilarious to watch games. There would be games that would be like 15 minutes tops. Like maybe less. So people were just not used. This is one of the few times where Unicorn got a new thing that no one else could do, which happens in Unicorn occasionally. It just hasn't been always competitive.
Yes.
And for this, it was, which was really cool to see.
And I think this was clearly designed to punish eminent provinces.
Yeah.
Hang on a second. Okay, let's see if that's... Nope, still some echo. This was to punish eminent provinces, but the problem is most of the eminent provinces are trash.
Right.
So, Lion's never going to run Ninkatoshi. Phoenix is never going to run Kakudaira. The Dragon one is just fucking laughable.
I mean, luckily Unicorn had the ability to flip provinces whether you wanted us to or not.
Sure.
There were a couple cards. You had Border Fortress. You had the Shugenja from the last cycle that would flip something up. So you could still really push to make that happen, which was nice to have something to fall back on.
Sure.
And Eminent did not pan out.
Yeah. I don't know. From the entirety of the cycle, I haven't looked at the Unicorn cards expressly. Did Unicorn come out okay-ish?
Comparatively to other clans, I would say no. You had a lot of courtiers that we didn't necessarily care about. You have some standouts. We finally got Worldly Shiatomi.
Yeah.
We've been waiting for what, like a year and a half, 2 years since we
give or take, yeah. And that was the community design card, so.
Right. You had a couple things, but Altan Sarnai is getting, the new Altan Sarnai was okay. I think the expectation was that a 2-cost charge was going to be better than it turned out to be. There's still use cases for it, but yeah, really, like that's the thing. It's like you look at Unicorn, we're not as bad as Dragon. Nobody's bad as Dragon, but
somehow Dragon manages to not be as bad as Dragon.
But you look at stuff like Lion or Scorpion or things like, and the relative power levels.
Yeah.
Like in a vacuum, you're like, oh, these cards are all relatively playable, and then you see what everybody else got, and you're like, oh, never mind.
These cards are trash.
Yeah.
Well, that is pack 1. I assume we'll get together at some point, maybe rope in some other people to do pack 2.
Sure.
All of this is ostensibly to get practice in for doing the new cycle and doing packs as they come out.
Yep.
So that we're not like 6 months out of date, because I think that's where we are right now.
Mm-hmm. Next month, next cycle.
Yep. It'll be interesting. I'm very curious how everything's going to shake out.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen some inkling of new keywords and stuff like that. This cycle as a whole just sped things up so much.
Yeah,
there's no real going back from it. So add that on top of whatever the effect is going to be next cycle.
I think once we finish the pack 6 for this cycle, it might be worth it to do like a post-mortem.
Yeah.
and just be like, hey, this is how the game changed because of these cards. And the game has definitely changed because of this cycle.
I can't think of another cycle that changed the game as much. Do you know what I mean?
So I would actually say um, probably the first cycle, but that has less to do with the quality of cards and more of the fact that the card pool like proportionally expanded as much as it did.
Yeah, that's fair.
But if you're looking at like the effect on the cards, not just the effect of having the cards, this cycle has done the most to change the game.
You have a keyword that is. We've never had a keyword in Rally that has been on as many cards in a single cycle. That has
Usually,
been introduced as a new keyword, right?
yeah.
Like there's just so much of it.
In the in the past, you know, the new keywords would go on one card per clan, and then on a neutral for the most part.
Yeah.
This go round, Rally got put on 3 cards per clan plus 3 or 4 neutral cards.
Oh, it's like 5 or 6 or 7, or there's tons of neutrals.
I mean, let's just we can take a look at that real quick since we're
There's
here.
no way to know.
I know, right? Because we only have pack 1 to work with, so
yeah, we have no idea.
Why is it not scrolling down? Because it hates me. Okay, well, this is all the Rally cards. Jesus Christ, there's 26 Rally cards.
How many neutrals do we have there? 1, 2, 3, 4,
5. 5 neutrals. Everyone else is looking like they got 3. Yeah. So Rally was super saturated, and I think they put it on the wrong cards.
Oh yeah, there were plenty of cards, and that's kind of the question of the cycle, right? It's like you would look at a card and you would be like, why does this not have Rally? And
like
I don't know, Tsunari.
Yeah, I will say like Akodo Reserve Company feels fine to have Rally.
Right.
Because it's kind of a middling card. Its effect requires you to build around. And so it needs Rally to entice people to do that. You look at Samuri, and she fucking does everything, plus Rally.
Yeah, I found it really interesting. I mean, I know we're kind of going off tangent here, but we're also all kind of done with the pack. But like, even in the explanation of why she was put on the RL, is, you know, well, she's a story character, and she should have she's important to the story, and she should have, you know, a effect on the story as well as in the game. And it's
you know what? That's fine. Like that is how the old game worked. Just backwards. The players decided who the important characters were through story tournaments, and as they got experienced and more powerful versions, they had, you know, bigger and broader impacts on the game. So I'm okay with that line of reasoning, but at the same time, like, Rally's too much. Her ability is appropriate for a story character, but the Rally isn't.
Yeah, and it's so divergent across clans in terms of power. Like Butcher of the Fallen, up until this errata,
so like
very very powerful.
You know,
Unicorn, not so much.
The Scorpion Rally cards are okay-ish.
Yeah, they're actually kind of fair.
Yeah, like Beautiful Entertainer definitely helps with Kyuden Bayushi because they can honor themselves. They can fix some honor. Shadow Stalker is just a good card. Those feel fine to have Rally. Open Window is hot trash, so it's kind of unfortunate that that's the Rally card.
2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Yeah, no, it's fine. But there's nothing on the level of Sanuri or Butcher or Student of the Tao. You know,
those would be the 3 standouts, right? Student of the Tao, in clan, outside of neutrals, obviously, but like Student of the Tao. Yeah, all 3 of those. And I mean, like, look at Unicorn's cards. We have like Scholar of Old Ren Pet, which does like nothing. Rat of Dawn sees play.
Yeah, I was gonna say Rat of Dawn is actually decent.
Yeah, it's actually decent. And then Twilight Rider is like maybe next cycle. I don't know.
Yeah, I think next cycle he's going to get better, but whatever. So yeah, Rally was super saturated, and it landed on cards it shouldn't have. But
Yeah, it really feels like they swung for the fences this cycle. I remember chatting with people and they're like, "Is L5R ending?" And they're just throwing everything because they know they're not going to get to make more cards. Like,
right,
why is this cycle so strong?
I would be very unhappy if L5R ended on this cycle.
Can you imagine? Can
It
you
it
imagine
it
how
would
the
not
community would feel?
it would not encourage me to play the game past its death. Just because everyone says the game every release and every RL update, the game gets healthier, and that's true. Um, but I think this cycle was a bit of a setback.
Yeah, I mean, it gets healthier from self-inflicted wounds. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
not. It didn't have to get necessarily healthier if the cards weren't printed the way they were printed to begin with. I mean, it's all. You have to see what people do in the meta. Sometimes
Oh,
cards
sure.
you look at and
You
you're
can't
like,
you can't
this is
catch
just
everything.
broken,
You can't
right?
catch everything. That's
Or you know it's going to be strong. Like there are plenty of times where Tyler has said like, oh, this card is going. I knew it was going to be strong, and if it's too strong, then I'll deal with it.
yeah.
And
Uh,
that's good. I mean, you want your designer swinging for the fences.
yeah, you don't want them designing boring cards because that'll kill the game as
Right.
well. Um, but I'm glad that there's at least another cycle coming. Hopefully, it will continue to improve the health of the game and make things diverse.
I'm
But
excited to see. I mean, the sub theme is interesting. Honestly, more than anything, I'm excited to see where the story goes. Like I've always been like a lore guy for sure.
yeah,
I'll take anything. I'll read anything that has L5R on it just to take in more of the lore. And seeing clans kind of get darker is going to be
yeah.
interesting.
Well, blood magic will do that to you.
I want to see what a Lion Maho card looks like. Let's say that.
I think they would be the clan least likely to practice Maho, and I've heard that there's uh, the dire keyword and Maho are not going to be
On every clan.
in like equally distributed amongst the
Mm.
clans. Um, so I don't know. I'd assume Line gets at least one.
They'll
Uh,
have they'll have dire stuff for sure.
I expect Phoenix to have like all the Maho. All right,
gotta make gotta make
that's
it like old 5R. Gotta
uh,
make,
I used to play Shadowlands and old L5R, so I would be okay with that. See a bit more taint in the world.
yeah. Let's see where it goes.
All right, well that's all I got. Um, Thank you for joining me on this. To anyone
Absolutely.
who actually listens to this, thank you for putting up with rambling. And we'll probably do this again.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, guys, take care.
Bye.